Whatever drove my neighbors from their house is coming for me now. Pillar, I don't think they're ever coming back. My husband, Noah, was peeking through the blinds at our neighbor's hastily abandoned house across the street. 3 weeks ago, in the middle of the night, we heard screaming and saw Jim and his long-term girlfriend, Joy. "You can call us J&J," they annoyingly told me when we first met, burst out of the historic River Rock house across from us and drive away in a panic. They didn't even close the front door. The cops came, did a cursory look around the house, filled a report that no one would ever read, and left. Since then, it's been radio silent. Jim and Joy haven't returned, haven't sent a text, haven't picked up anything. It's like they've been edited out of the film of our lives and left on the cutting room floor. Noah had been obsessed with this story since the night it happened. I had to convince him not to go check out the house after they first run off. He said he wanted to see what had scared them and if there was anything he could do to help. I reminded him that 1, he didn't like Jim, 2, he wasn't a cop, and 3, the growing tear in his right meniscus would hamper any quick escape. He tried to argue, but my no means no stare backed him down. Since then, we've kept a watch on the place. All the neighbors have. We're not in a close-knit community by any stretch, but when something strange like this happens, it fires up the gossip machine. That machine forges instant connections. Neighbors become closer, if for no other reason than to get the latest scoop. Nobody knew what had happened, but everyone had a theory. Everything from con men to poltergeists were given consideration, but the plot most of the neighborhood settled on was some kind of violent struggle related to the drug trade, and boy, did the rumor mill churn. Nobody is that perky all the time. It has to be cocaine abuse. I heard he was trained assassin for the cartels. Didn't they move from Miami? Makes you think, no? J&J, being drug mules, never sat right with us. Jim and Joy were a lot of things. Affable, annoying, upbeat, Instagram pretty, but violent drugs isn't how I would describe them. That'd be like finding out your toy poodle was a serial killer. Besides, they were the couple your parents compared you to. Be more like them. They have it all figured out, dear. The default couple photo that comes with every picture frame. The goddamn blueprint for modern suburban happiness. These kinds of people don't flee in terror in the middle of the night and never return. Something spooked them. They were spies, Frank, our Crescetti neighbor, declared the other night. Nobody asked him for his thought, but as stated by the old person law, he saw 2 people minding their own business and felt complied to interject his opinion. We stopped our nightly walk and turned to the man. "What?" I said, letting my annoyance creep into my words. I felt Noah's elbow pop me in the rib, letting me know the tone didn't go unnoticed. "Spies, get those ears cleaned out," he said. "What were you saying about the neighbors now?" Noah said. "They were probably spies that got called back. One day, they're mowing the lawn too goddamn early in the morning. Next, they're having cocktails in a bar in some third world hellhole." "Yeah, like Florida?" Noah joked. Frank snorted. "Whole damn world's been turned upside down. Wasn't like this when I was a kid." "The generational laminate," Noah joked. "Didn't people say they heard the screaming like they'd been spooked?" "Sure, but they were the ones doing the spooking, I guarantee it." "We heard their place was maybe haunted," I said. Frank laughed. "Specters, please. A bunch of hoo-ha." He looked at Noah. "Have you never been folded a flag before?" Noah shrugged. "No, never had one." "Part of the problem right there," Frank said. "You just hold the edges and I'll do the hard work." "Generational laminate," I echoed. Noah gave me a look, but chased it with a sly smile. Frank didn't hear anything because a woman was speaking, or at least that was my take on the subject. "You live next to them. You ever notice anything off?" Noah asked Frank. "Well, there was a lot of nighttime activity, a lot of prowling, night conversation, movement in the house and yard." "Night conversation? What does that mean?" Noah asked. "Whispering in the backyard wasn't in English, so I have no idea what they were saying, but it was constant, every night." "What language was it?" "I only speak English, so I have no clue. Just another data fact that points to them being spies." "Have you seen anyone go inside since they left?" "Nope," Frank said. "Outside the police, nobody has ever stopped by. I keep an eye on the place too, just in case their handlers visit. I know a few people connected with the company, if you know who I mean." "Do you know Sears or Roebuck?" I asked. It fell on deaf ears and was the conversation ender I'd been hoping it was. Frank told us he'd keep us in the loop if anyone came by and headed back to his house, the flag tucked under his arm. Noah gave me a look. Sears and Roebuck, you sounded older than Frank. I was meeting with him on his level, I said with a shrug. You think J&J were a pair of spies? No way, he said. Spies are supposed to blend in with the local population. J&J were the trendsetters of this place. They planted begonias, and soon houses all along the street followed suit. I love you noticed that. He shrugged. My point is, you can't blend into the scenery if you're building it. Did you learn this from your years in counter-surveillance at Langley, or... Shh, he said, wrapping his arm around my waist as we made our way up to the driveway. You'll blow my cover. And Frank knows people in the company. I laughed, trying my best to affect a Russian accent. Do you need me to call my friend in Moscow to resolve this Frank situation? It was Noah's turn to cackle. That's your Russian accent. Forgive me, I said with a wink. I've been on assignment in America for too long. We went inside and started cooking dinner. While I was simmering a sauce, there was a knock at the door. I glanced over at Noah and he gave me a confused look. We weren't expecting anyone, especially later in the evening. Noah opened the front door to reveal Melissa, the mousy-looking neighbor 2 doors down. I could count on my hands the number of times we've spoken, but I knew that she and Joy had hit it off. Usually a cute woman, Melissa now looked like she'd just gone 10 rounds in the octagon. Nervous, sweaty, and jittery, kind of the look of an addict needing a fix. Maybe J&J were drug dealers after all. Hi, I don't know if we formally met, but I'm Melissa. I live 2 houses down, in the white one with the red trim, melanges in the front. Oh yeah, Noah said. I love your landscaping. Bold move with the melanges. Oh, thanks, she said, pushing her glasses up her nose. You okay, Melissa? I asked, coming into view behind Noah. Well, no, not really, she said with a nervous laugh. I'm actually a little freaked out right now, to tell the truth. Please, come in, I said, nudging Noah away from the door. I don't want to interrupt your dinner plans or anything, she said, quickly glancing across the street at the abandoned house. She did it a few times, actually. Small glances like she was worried someone was watching her. Maybe Frank's spies were on the case. Noah was already delaying it by messing around on his phone. Come on, please, take a seat. Need something to drink? Water, seltzer? Maybe a shot of something? She joked, but I got the sense she was serious. She was skittish. Her hand kept moving for no other reason than to stay busy. A person on the brink of a nervous breakdown, pretending the world around them isn't burning to ash. I can do that. We have some good booze, or maybe wine. I have a bottle I've been waiting to try, I said, reaching into the cabinet and pulling out 2 glasses. If you don't mind, she said, her gaze flitting between me and the floor. You're doing me a favor. Noah, can you keep an eye on the pan? He nodded and continued the tedious job of slowly stirring the bubbling red sauce. Did you plan the landscaping yourself, or did you hire out? He asked, a bubble popping and leaving a red ring on the stone top. What? Oh, sorry, Melissa said. Sorry, I did it myself. I took an online course about it. Noah has raved about it since you put it in, I said, bringing the bottles over and popping the top. We want to do something, but haven't decided on what. She took the glass from me and downed it in one gulp. She placed the glass down and slid it towards me. I refilled. What's going on? Melissa took the glass and downed it again. I had to imagine it burned going down, but her face gave nothing away. It's gonna sound weird, but I promise you I'm not going crazy or anything. You're in a safe space, I told her, my voice softening. I nodded down at the glass, but she waved me away. So, you know about Joy and Jim, right? They used to live across from you. Is this about them fleeing in the middle of the night? She nodded. Tears formed in the corner of her eyes. She tried to play it off like nothing was there, but I handed her a napkin, and her fâché broke. Thank you. Yes, the ones who left a few weeks ago. Are they okay? They're better now, but they're still frazzled, Melissa said. I don't know if they'll ever be the same, to be honest. I don't know if I will either. This got Noah to turn down the burners and switch his attention from the sauce to the tea. What happened to them? He asked. It started the day they moved in. Little things, strange noises, cold spots, things getting misplaced, that kind of stuff. But then it got worse. Chairs sliding around in the kitchen floor, doors slamming at all hours of the night, whispers in the dark, phantom touches on the arm, the smell of cigarette smoke wafting through the house, she said, her voice shakily. Then they saw him. Who? She slid her glass towards me again. I refilled it, and I realized this woman has put down most of the bottle before I even had a sip. I should have started with the $2 chuck and not something I actually wanted to drink. Melissa was rattled. If liquor courage helped unlock the mystery, bottoms up.
They call him the Drover. The what?
I asked. Drover, Noah said. It's a rancher. I gave him a confused look and he shrugged. Yeah, years of horse camp. I had no idea Noah had ever ridden a horse, let alone attended years of horse camp, and I planned to find all of that out later. But right now my attention was on the potentially haunted house across the way from my own home. Melissa had asked me not to think she was crazy before she spoke, but I was struggling with that idea at the moment.
Once he made himself visible, the attacks became more frequent, more violent. Specifically to Joy, the Dovers would push them, trip them. He scratched Joy across the back so deeply that it left bloody wounds. Jim was nearly shoved down the basement stairs. Jesus,
I said.
They kept a brave face on in the public, but to me they broke down in tears. Joy was maniac. She couldn't even be home alone with it. When Jim went to work, she'd spend her days at the library or Starbucks. Why did they stay?
I asked.
They just bought the place. They were afraid they'd lose everything if they left.
Melissa said with a shrug.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Noah diagnosed.
I guess. They thought they could stick it out. I know they were contacting a priest to see if they could come and cleanse the house, but they were gonna have to do it without attracting too much attention. Jim is trying to make partners at his firm. It'd be a mark against him if he started talking about how his own house is haunted.
Oh my God, Noah said.
What happened the night they left?
Melissa took a deep breath.
They had just sat down for dinner when they heard the voices calling out for them in the pantry. They tried to ignore it, but then the voices started getting agitated and threatening. Jim and Joy moved out into the living room, and the Dover appeared down the hall. They tried to ignore it, but how could you do that? I couldn't even stop myself from throwing recyclables into the regular trash. I can't imagine trying to eat with a goddamn monster staring at me. They decided they couldn't either. They got up and left for the evening. When they got home around 1 a.m, things got worse. Their couch had been flipped over. The chairs in the kitchen had been stacked on the table. Plates and bowls were smashed on the ground. As soon as they entered the house, they smelled cigarette smoke all around them. Then the Drover materialized directly in front of them. Oh, fuck,
I said, taking a long pull from my wine. Wow, this is tasty.
She said he's hideous. He was there 1 second and gone the next. Then she felt his hand on her throat.
Melissa stopped speaking. The silence was deafening. I finished my glass and poured another one for us both. Melissa took it and tipped it back. I followed suit. I could smell the sauce burning. Noah must have too, because before I could say anything, he rushed over and shut off the burner.
Jim told me Joy couldn't breathe and turned blue. He tried to help, but there was nothing to do. He eventually laid on top of his wife to try and break the connection between her and the Drover. It worked. She caught her breath, but the Drover wasn't finished. Jim felt a burning sensation on his back. They smelled burning flesh. The Drover had branded a star symbol on his back. That's what did it. They ran out and haven't been back.
We sat in stunned silence. Everyone in the neighborhood had been wrong. It wasn't drugs or spies or mob violence. It was an actual angry ghost. I suddenly understood why Melissa was hydroplaning the wine.
Jesus fucking Christ,
Noah said, finally, breaking the tension.
Are they okay? No. Did something happen tonight?
I asked. Again, tears formed down the corner of her eyes. I reached out and touched her hand, letting her know she was safe here. No judgment. A tear fell, and Melissa nodded yes. I didn't want to pry, but I assumed the reason that she was over here was that something had happened. She had either told me or not.
Joy called me this afternoon and asked a huge favor. She asked if I could go into their room and grab some important paperwork for her. They needed to sell the house. She said the activity was lowest in that late afternoon. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. But that poor woman had gone through so much already. So I said okay.
You could have knocked me over with a feather. If a ghost had choked me, I'd never ask anyone, let alone a casual neighbor or friend, to go over to the house. I raised a better question than that. Melissa, as far as I was concerned, was a saint. If I had a vote in the pen pal conclave, she'd get it.
What happened? Everything was fine at first. I wasn't planning on staying long. I'd walk in, head to their bedroom, grab the files, and run out. 10 minutes was the maximum amount of time it had to be in there. As soon as I entered, I felt the temperature shift. It was freezing. As I moved through the hallway, I heard whispers around me. What were they saying? I couldn't make anything out. It was like human vocal static. Just sounds. But my brain knew they were voices. I pushed past and went into the bedroom. I rifled through their dresser until I found the paperwork I needed. Then the smell hit my nostrils. Cigarette smoke. As I turned to leave the drawer.
Her voice caught. She waited a beat, collecting herself, and continued.
He was standing in the doorway. A shadow in the shape of a man in a hat. Just watching. He disappeared, and I felt fingertips dragging up my arm. I ran out and came over here. I don't know why. I just needed to feel safe. Check my sanity or...
Melissa put her head on the counter and broke into sobs. I moved from there, where I was standing, and wrapped her in a supportive hug. She was trembling. I said nothing. I wanted her to know that she had our support. She stayed that way for damn near 5 minutes, letting all the trauma come pouring out of her. When she had cried out all of her tears, she thanked me and sat up. Her face was puffy and her eyes red from the salty water.
You're safe now,
I said.
No,
She said.
I'm not. None of us are. Before I left, I heard him say to stay off his land. All of it. I think he was talking about the neighborhood.
Why would you think that? Noah asked.
This whole area used to be one big ranch. You can find old maps online. I don't know what he meant, to be honest, but I wanted you to know. You're right across the street. You could be next.
When she breathed those words into existence, they found a home in the holy hell, what the fuck, fear region of my brain. I escaped my growing dread long enough to tell her she was always welcome here. Melissa stayed for a little longer, collecting herself. Noah offered to escort her home, which she gladly accepted. I can't say I blame her. Not only is Noah a looker, but if a haunted ranch hand was threatening me, I'd have a buddy with me at all times. While he was gone, I pulled out my laptop and started searching. Dinner was gonna have to wait. We'd ruined the sauce anyways. I needed to know if the haunted rancher was going to come to my house and choke me out. By the time Noah returned, I found what purported to be a map of this area from the late 1800s. With a little Photoshop wizardry, I placed the old map on top of a modern one. Sure enough, our neighborhood was smack dab in the middle of the Badwater Ranch. J&J's home was labeled as the boss's house. I showed Noah. He frowned. Badwater doesn't exactly portend good things, does it? Not really, I said. How was Melissa when she got home? A little better. The wine helped calm her down, but also made the trek longer than normal. We did more weaving than walking. She gave me the link to that landscaping course, though. Fantastic. The flowers that grow on our graves will look lovely. You honestly think that thing is going to come over here? If we agreed that there is already a ghost over there, then it crossing the road to our place isn't a gigantic leap in logic. He nodded. Should we go over there and see if anything is there? I knew this was coming. Noah had always wanted to go check things out from the jump. Now that there was a spooky story attached to J&J's departure, the drive to go check it out would be full bore. I had zero desire to see what was inside their haunted abode, nor did I want my husband poking around. No, I said. I don't want to invite this thing over. Assuring there is a thing, which we won't know until we check it out. Noah, I said, narrowing my gaze. Seriously, that lady told us it nearly choked Joy to death. We really want to go pissing a violent ghost off? He held up his hands to show surrender. Okay, fine. You're sticking to your guns on this one, huh? I pointed my finger gun square at his chest. I'd rather you not die if I can help it, I said, holstering my hand. He walked over and kissed me on the forehead. What a lovely sentiment. I'm sappy like that, I said, leaning into him. Is dinner salvageable? Noah looked back and shrugged. How do you feel about pizza? About 40 minutes later, 10 after the app's promised delivery time, Noah looked out of our blinds and saw the pizza guy pull into J&J's driveway. The scruffy-looking old man walked up to the front door, pies in hand, and was about to knock on the door when it swung open. The pizza guy was talking to someone inside the house, but Noah couldn't see who.
Did someone sneak into J&J's house when we weren't looking? What? Arju was talking to someone over there. Who's Arju? The guy delivering our food. Don't you ever check the app?
I pulled myself away from my book and walked over to Noah.
Why is the pizza guy over there at all? Maybe he got the wrong address?
I glanced down, and sure enough, Arju, the pizza guy, was chatting with someone just out of view. I looked at Noah.
Did J&J come back? Is Melissa over there again? I don't know. Go say something,
I said, prodding him.
He could be walking into a dangerous situation. I thought you didn't want me going over there, he asked, already heading towards the door. I'm not heartless. Go save Arju.
Noah opened the door, and I peered back out the window. We both saw, in our own shared horror, the pizza guy walk into the house. The door slammed shut behind him.
Oh shit,
Noah said, sprinting over there. Even though every fiber in my body told me to stay, I couldn't let the love of my life go running into a ghost house alone. I put on my big girl pants and ran after Noah. I wouldn't let him face down the drover without me. I caught up with him as soon as we reached the porch. He didn't seem surprised to see me tagging along. Noah walked up to the front door and touched the handle. He instantly yanked his hand back, waving in painful in the air motion.
Ow, fuck. What? It's hot,
he said.
Fire? I don't smell or see fire,
he said. He glanced down at his hand and his jaw dropped. He held up his palm to show me, and I felt my heart skip a beat. A small star had been burned into his skin, like the drover had branded him.
Fuck this guy,
he said. He took a step back, squared his shoulders, and rammed into the door. Or he would have, if the door hadn't suddenly swung open and sent him trembling into the house. I went in to follow him, but the door slammed shut in my face.
Noah!
Despite just watching him burn his hand on the door handle, out of instinct I grabbed it too. It was ice cold. I turned it and pressed against the door, but it didn't budge. I took a step back and kicked it. All that did was send waves of pain up my leg. Still, I gave it another go. It didn't budge. Not wanting to try a third time, I find myself trembling into the abyss. I ran around the backyard and looked for another way in. To no surprise, J&J's backyard was a Homes and Garden quality retreat, exquisitely designed with top-end patio furniture, a wet bar, and I shit you not, an actual authentic pizza brick oven. I sprinted to the ornate French doors and yanked on the handles, expecting them to be locked. Amazingly, they were unlocked. Opening the doors like the Sun King, I strolled into the house and felt the cold instantly. I called out for Noah, but he didn't respond. Neither did Arju. I felt bad for him. I delivered pizzas in the past, and it's already a thankless job. Throw in being trapped in a haunted house by an angry ghost into the mix, and it might be the worst job imaginable. Even Little Caesars would tuck toga and run away. I made my way to the front door, but nobody was there either. The pizza boxes were even missing. None of this made sense. Where the hell could they have gone? I called out for Noah, but I didn't hear them. But I heard something. Whispers all around me like bees near honey. Melissa had called it human vocal static, and it was at this point. The whispers sounded like what I imagined English sounded like to foreigner ears. Noises that would make sense if God just turned the dial a little to the right or left. My nose caught a scent that, regrettably, wasn't pepperoni. Cigarette smoke. Both of my parents smoked for years, and I've always hated that specific stink. All this did was piss me off. The smell transported me back to sitting with my father, sick with cancer, lamenting that the hospital wouldn't let him smoke anymore.
I don't care that you're here,
I said to the empty room. My voice echoed off the wall.
I'm here to get Noah and the pizza guy, and you're not gonna fucking stop me. This isn't your home anymore. Hell, you're not even alive. There hasn't been a ranch here in 100 years. There's nothing you can do that's gonna stop me from helping my loved one.
The power cut off. Begrudgingly, I had to give the drover credit. That was a good way to stop me from finding these two.
Pillar, help!
It was Noah, and his screaming was coming from under the house. I didn't know this place had a basement. No one else in the area did. If it was anything like the backyard, I imagined I'd be stepping into an aristocrat's apartment.
Please help!
Came another voice that I assumed was Arju. I felt horrible that he had been blundered into an entire ordeal. His tip would have had to be biblical to atone for all this. Exuberantly tipping, another legitimate reason to hate the drover. I scanned the room for the stairs to the basement. Not that I was excited about the prospect, but I knew if Noah were down there, I'd soon be. I wasn't even sure how they got down there in the first place. But when an angry ghost is haunting your neighbor's house and nearly kills the last occupants, you don't question odd shit. It's par for the course. and in that moment, I felt like Tiger Woods. The cigarette smell whirred around me, and I had to assume the drover was on the move. The whispers started again, louder this time, clearer too. While there wasn't a bunch of coherent phrases, every once in a while an actual word slipped through the static and found my ears. Death, leave, torture were among the winners. I spied a door tucked away in the kitchen that had led to the basement. I ripped it open and saw an ancient wooden staircase that seemed out of place in this home's interior. While the bones may have been made with classic river rock, the guts had been completely modernized. Why do all of that and not change the stairs?
Pillar, is that you? We're down here.
Noah yelled from the darkness. I patted for my phone, but I'd left it at home. I'd have to descend into the basement in the dark. Great. As I took my first step, I smelled cigarette smoke again. Melissa's story about Jim nearly being thrown down the stairs came back to me. I glanced over my shoulder, but didn't see the drover. I didn't want to stick around here to find out if he showed up. My foot caught on something sticking out of the wall about halfway down. It was enough to throw off my balance. My body pitched forward, and I grabbed at the railing to keep myself from falling. But the time-worn wood splintered, and I went hurling down the stairs in a heap. Throwing my left arm up to protect my face did little to limit the total damage, but it probably saved me from at least a broken nose. My cheek slammed into the corner of the step. I felt the cut open and blood trickle from the wound. Because I cartwheeled down the stairs, the blood ran up and down my face, depending on where my head was at the moment. I hit the landing with a sickening thud. The air rushed from my lungs, and I heard my head smack onto the dirt floor. I saw stars. My vision went blurry for a moment. My landing kicked dirt off the floor, and I was coughing. Wait, dirt floor? Why in the world did this basement have a dirt floor? Unless this wasn't a basement, but a root cellar. Of course, J&J were homesteading too. Probably had homemade kimchi buried somewhere down here. Is this how a concussed brain processes thoughts? As I took a life-saving gulp of air, I sat up and shook the cobwebs from my head. Looking up the stairs, I felt my heart stop. Dozens of disembodied arms were coming out of the walls, their ghostly fingers extended, looking for another leg to grab.
What the ever-loved fuck is going on?
I heard myself say. From the top of the stairs, a figure rose from the floor. The drover. He was mostly in shadow, but I could see his blood-red eyes just below the hat of his brim. There was no whispers now. He didn't have to say a word. His appearance there was everything I needed to know. I was in danger. I kicked away from the bottom of the stairs and scooted across the dirt floor. As I did, the drover disappeared, and the door to the basement slammed shut. I was in total darkness. I felt the gritty dirt under my fingernails. I was trapped in an overgrown crawl space that had been here since the original pioneers laid down the first rock. Glancing up, I saw just how low the ceiling was. I didn't think I'd ever be able to fully stand down here. I'd had to stoop to avoid cracking my head on the wood and pushing my concussed brain to NFL player levels.
Noah,
I whispered.
where are you? Over here.
He called out.
That's not helpful.
I said.
Where is here? Follow the sound of my voice.
I turned to where I thought I'd heard him, but as I was trying to locate him, the whispers filled the crawl space, more aggressive, more angry, made finding Noah almost impossible. It was like they were in my ears. I started crawling towards the far wall, assuming they were there. Each time I moved, I kicked up more ancient dirt into my nostrils. I sneezed and coughed, but I kept moving. Finally, through the noise, I heard Noah's voice calling for me. I was heading in the right direction.
Pillar, can you hear me? Yes,
I said, reaching out my hand. I felt his hand wrapped around mine. He pulled me closer, then he started yanking at me, pulling way harder than he should be. His grip tightened, and I felt a burning sensation ripple across my skin. The cigarette smell returned. In the dark, I saw those blood-red eyes in front of me. The drover had me in his grasp and was pulling me into the dark corners of the cellar. I started screaming and tried yanking my hand back, but his grip was ironclad. I rolled onto my back and dug my feet into the dirt floor. It showed him, but my shoes wouldn't catch. I kept sliding. Behind the drover, a swirling white light formed in the corner of the crawl space. At first, it looked like a candlelight, flickering in the storm, but it kept growing, and soon looked like a whirlpool of lightning. A portal? I didn't know where it led and had no intentions of discovering that for myself. The swirling white opening provided me enough light for me to see where Noah and Arju were being held. They were locked in an old coal storage area just below the remnants of an antique coal chute. Someone shoved a metal rod through the latch, trapping them inside. Noah was screaming for me and throwing himself at the bars, but they wouldn't budge. The whispers were so loud and omnipresent now that it was just a buzzing white noise. My eyes were laser focused on the swirling storm in the corner. In the eyes of the cellar hurricane, I glimpsed what looked like crackling flames. That's never a good sign. I needed to do something, and fast, or my life would literally slip away from me. Melissa had said that Jim had gotten on top of Joy to break the connection and stop the drover from choking her. But the drover had been invisible then. I saw him now. I felt him. I wondered if feeling was a two-way street. I raised one of my legs off the ground and instantly felt myself being dragged faster towards the portal. With my leg free, I took dead aim at those blood-red eyes and kicked. I didn't expect to hit anything, but when the bottom of my foot hit something solid, I unleashed a Bruce Lee-level barrage of kicks. I chopped my free hands at his arm and felt his hold on me loosen. With my ass mere inches from the lip of the portal, I reared my legs back and called upon the spirit of every horse that had ever kicked a person in human history. I slammed my legs forward and landed a kick so hard between his eyes that his grip loosened enough for me to rip my arms away. I was free. Well, free-ish. My kick knocked the drover back so far that his form got caught in the pull of the swirling light. He reached out for me again, but I scooted away from this desperate clawing. His hands landed in the dirt, his fingers carving little troughs as the gravitational pull of the portal sucked him deeper into the psychedelic light. I left the drover to struggle with whatever was going on and scrambled over to the coal storage bins. Noah and Arju were cheering as I knocked the bar from its lashes, freeing them. Noah wrapped his arms around me, but I brushed them back.
Run now, hug later.
The three of us made our way back up the stairwell. Before we went dashing up through, we all skidded to a stop. There were hundreds of arms coming out of the walls now. They waved back and forth like seaweed in a strong current. They were substantially more than I'd seen mere moments ago. If we went up the stairs, they'd grab us. Where would they drag us off to? Back to the drover? To another portal?
Shit,
I said.
What the fuck is this place?
Arju asked, his eyes wild. The whispers were frenzied now. I knew it was a response to the drover being yanked down into the portal. I wasn't sure if his anger stemmed from being dragged down or from the fact that he had failed to bring me with him. Was he working for something on the other side that needed a living woman for some unspeakable reason? Either way, I wasn't sticking around to find out.
Coal chute,
I offered.
Too small,
Arju said.
I tried it. There has to be a cellar door somewhere, right?
Noah said, his hands reaching the ceiling and feeling around.
This is an old house with a root cellar. There has to be one. I never noticed one outside the house,
I said.
Maybe they sealed it up a long time ago.
A sick, sinister laugh broke through the whispers, silencing our conversation. We glanced back at the drover. Despite his straining, half of his body had disappeared into the portal, but he was fighting to free himself. His blood-red eyes watched our every move, plotting.
You can't leave, Rebecca. I told you. Down here, no one will hear your worthless children's screams,
it said, cackling like a deranged madman. I didn't know who Rebecca was, but I was instantly on her side. The drover didn't become a monster after he died. He always been one. Death had only increased his power.
They're waiting for you down there. I'll drag all of you down with me. The fuck you will,
I said, my blood boiling. The sounding dirt beneath our feet shook. I looked down just in time to see a tiny hand burst forth from the soil and grab another and another. They fell around for something to grab.
I'm never delivering pizzas again. Tips ain't worth this shit,
the pizza guy said in a panic. From the opposite side of the crawl space, Noah's hands found something that felt like a cellar door. He tried pushing up on it, but it didn't budge. He called Arju to help with him. With their combined effort, the buried cellar door moved ever so slightly. I ran up and helped. With the three of us straining, the doors briefly parted. Fresh dirt from above us fell through the cracks, and old owners must have landscaped right over the cellar door, probably to keep whatever the fuck was down here trapped. With all of our attention on our escape route, we hadn't noticed the several child-sized figures had crawling out of the ground. I turned and saw half a dozen pairs of blue glowing eyes watching us. I screamed, which prompted the men to turn and add to my chorus of fear.
On three, give it everything you have,
Noah said, readjusting his grip.
1, 2, 3.
We all shoved the door, my arms strained against the wood, but the harder we pushed, the more I felt us breaking through. Dirt fell on top of our heads in bucketfuls. We closed our eyes and gritted through it. Finally, moonlight was visible. With a last struggled push, the door opened wide. The night sky was above us. Arju scrambled up through the hole first, nearly leaping straight out. He helped Noah after. I turned and watched as the figure of the woman crawled out of the ground. The children moved to her, and she wrapped her arms around them. This had to be Rebecca and her children. She looked up, and we locked eyes. She nodded to me. I nodded back.
Pilar, what's the holdup?
Before I reached for Noah and Arju's waiting hands, I watched as all the figures moved towards the drover. He struggled to free himself from the portal, but it was in vain. Rebecca and her brood surrounded him and kicked at his head and body. I watched as the drover completely disappeared down into the portal. As soon as his hateful form was gone, the portal rinked out. We crawled out of the hole in the ground and scurried away from it as fast as our exhausted bodies could move. We made it out of the lawn, where Noah and I collapsed. Arju didn't stick around. He ran to his car and took off like a bat out of hell. Noah and I lay in the grass and stared up into the night sky. I fell for his hand, found it, and it entwined our fingers. We didn't speak. There was nothing to say. We just looked up at the stars and let our bodies slowly recuperate. If anyone had looked out, we'd have looked like the druggies that J&J had sold their wares to. The tea would be piping hot among the neighbors. I was too emotionally drained to care. What finally got us moving was a sprinkler system turning on. The ice-cold water hitting our skin made us jump like firecrackers. We moved to the driveway, but it was no use. We got soaked. Noah and I locked eyes and we started laughing. Just pure, unhinged crackling that echoed down the street.
What the hell is going on here?
It was Frank, holding a bag of trash and looking confused. He glanced at us and shook his head.
You two on drugs? Not yet,
I said, pushing my wet hair out of my face.
but I'm hoping to change that soon. Pilar,
Noah snapped.
listen, you two want to use devil's lettuce. Do it in your own home, not on your neighbor's lawn.
Frank said.
I'm gonna throw this trash bag away. Don't be here when I get back. I know a guy on the force, and he'll drop everything to help me.
Frank was a lot of things, but a jokester wasn't one of them. He would absolutely call the cops on us tonight and then engage us in a conversation tomorrow during our walk, as if nothing had happened. Thus, in the way of the old boomer. In the days since, things have calmed down over there. Melissa had to go back and get something else for JJ and reported she felt nothing this time. I thought it was ridiculous to go back at all, but whatever. Maybe she was truly running for Pope. She told us movers were coming in at the end of the month, and it'd be hitting the market not long after. The drover was gone. No clue where he went. I don't understand why he tried dragging me down with him. I don't understand why he was so violent. I saw his face as he was being yanked down. I saw the fear in his eyes. The same fear he saw in people he had tortured and hurt and killed over the decades. Sometimes when I'm feeling down, I think about his horrified face, and it never fails to brighten my day. The other night, as Noah and I were coming in from our nightly walks, I glanced over at JJ's place. In the living room window, I saw Rebecca's blue eyes staring out at me. I nodded at her, and she nodded back. Solitary across time and dimensions. Soon, child-sized shadows joined her. Their bright blue eyes shone in the evening's purple light. Some even waved. I waved back and felt a stirring in my chest. Those poor, tormented souls finally found the peace they had lacked during their lives. I looked at Noah, who was holding the door open for me. The man never raised his voice to me, never treated me as a lesser, never locked me in a root cellar, cold chamber. I walked to him and gave him a tight hug. He was surprised, but eventually melted into me. He was my dude, in my good time and my bad. Hot damn. How lucky was I?